and gentlemen, welcome to the football show. Today on the show, we're going to be doing the updated power rankings. We're going to be breaking down every single game that we saw in week 4 of the NFL. Get excited, get involved. As always, we are live on Twitch. The NFL show is a live show. We get chat's opinions. We talk to chat throughout the show. We read their comments. We answer their questions. All that fun stuff. Interesting week in the NFL, man. Really interesting week. This is one of the more volatile weeks I can remember. Just before the week kicked off, we saw the New England Patriots come down with a series of COVID, and they get their game not postponed for an extended period of time, just shifted from Sunday to Monday. So they were forced to travel basically the same day of the game. I think it was the same day of the game, actually. I think they traveled the same day of the game, which never happens, to go play the Kansas City Chiefs, and played pretty well, actually. They lost 26-10, but that was only because the Chiefs outscored them by 20. They outscored them 20-7 in the second half. So it was a pretty close game. There were some wild ones, man. I mean, Buccaneers, Chargers, Tom Brady throws for 5 touchdowns, 369 yards, and an absolute barn burner. We saw the Browns, Cowboys played to a 49-38 final. Really, really, really crazy stuff. Saints go down 14-0, then immediately score 35 unanswered points. Really wild week. We're going to break it all down here in every single game. But first, let's start with the power rankings. So last week, the power rankings sat like this. We started with the Chiefs. Then we went to the Seahawks. Then the Packers, then the Ravens, then the Bills, then the Patriots, then the Steelers, Titans, Rams, Niners. Now let's look at the top end of our power rankings here. Chiefs, best team in the NFL. There's no reason for them to move. Seahawks, yep, second best team in the NFL, no reason to move. Packers took care of business as well. So the top 3 certainly stays. Baltimore takes care of business. The Ravens beat Washington 31-17. Tough team to beat like that. Ron Rivera, I mean, words cannot really describe what Ron Rivera is doing right now. He's undergoing cancer treatments while coaching. He has 3 weeks of cancer treatments left, I believe, and he is holding strong to the fact that he will continue to do that. The Buffalo Bills took care of business. Man, the Bills, I'll tell you this. Josh Allen, what a jump. I mean, I was talking about it, or I've talked about it every week, that the Bills could be the best team in the NFL. And it's the only thing holding them back. The only question mark is, can Josh Allen go from being a good quarterback or a prospective quarterback to a fully developed best quarterback in the NFL? And they have him right now. He's playing about as good as any quarterback in the NFL. He is the driving force. He is the absolute alpha and omega for this team. They go as far as he goes. And, man, he's going. I watched that entire game. What a performance from Josh Allen. He's the leaps and bounds that he's taken, and the receivers he's got. Cole Beasley, I've never seen so many diving catches. I mean, these guys are playing their asses off for him, and I'm not even sure if the defense has got rolling yet. I mean, the defense still seems a bit suspect, and I've been hearing a lot of chatter that this is the best defense in the NFL. So if we see this team play like the best defense in the NFL, man, there's no telling what's going to happen with that team. So let's go down a little further. So now it gets interesting, okay? So the Patriots were at 6. I don't think you downgrade them that much here. I mean, this is an impossible spot. First of all, they played the Chiefs. Second of all, they traveled on the day of the game. Junior high school teams do that. High school teams do that. I mean, when do you think the last time any of these Patriots players traveled on the same day of the game? On top of that, Cam Newton was out unexpectedly. So you have a guy who's out. And who's more important to an offense, the way they play, than Cam Newton? Like, let's say Patrick Mahomes is out. Yeah, you lose Patrick Mahomes, but you run the same offense. Cam Newton being out, the Patriots had to basically say, all right, we'll throw the entire playbook out, and let's just kind of wing it. So it's hard for me to be like, oop, they lost, demote them. We're going to demote them a little bit, but it's not going to be that much. So the other teams we have, Steelers, Titans, Rams, Niners. So the Steelers, their game was postponed. So Tennessee and the Steelers game was postponed. So it's hard to move them as well. Then we go to the Rams. The Rams play the Giants. We know how good the Giants are. The Rams take care of business there, 17-9. Not exactly the most impressive victory, but you got to beat whoever's in front of you. Then we go to the 49ers. The 49ers get slapped up by the Eagles in a weird spot, in a really weird spot there. Nick Mullens, terrible performance. Nick Mullens may have cost himself that Matt Flynn money. Nick Mullens, all he had to do was play really well while Garoppolo was out. Really just this game. Sunday Night Football, if he puts on a performance, he probably could have secured a $40 to $50 million deal. But now he looked so bad, I don't know if he separated himself very much at all from backup quarterbacks in the NFL. So the Niners are going to get taken out of here, for sure. The rest of the teams, I don't see how you can move these teams. I really don't. Now let's take a look at what else we got. Let's go to chat real quick. What's up? Giants are bad. Yeah, the Giants are terrible. The Giants are one of the worst teams in the NFL, for sure. So let's look at who possibly could get moved up. The Browns could get moved up. The Bucks could get moved up. All these other teams are awful. The Saints could get moved up. The Colts could get moved up. And that's really about it. So, and the Cardinals were in the conversation earlier this year, but they got slapped up by Carolina, so, So let's take a look. So the Patriots at 6. Again, it's really tough for me to move these people in the power rankings because I'm sitting here and I'm staring at them, and it's hard for me to move any of these guys. I mean, the Patriots with Cam Newton, they probably put, like, who am I going to move up, right? I can't move the Steelers up, can't move the Titans up. They didn't even play. But I can't move them down. They're undeserved to move them down. So we're kind of stagnant in the power rankings this week. Now the question is, do I move up the Saints? Do I move up the Bucks? Do I move up the Browns? All are relatively deserving. The biggest drop so far is from the Saints. The Saints at one point, I think, were like number 3 on my power rankings, 3 or 4. And they dropped totally off after the Raiders game. And the Detroit game was a really good game for New Orleans. I think it completely ended the Drew Brees talk and completely ended the Saints are shit talk. Now, look, the Lions are nothing special. But the fact that they could come back from 14 down and march back the way they did to dominate the game, pretty impressive stuff. The Bucks win in impressive fashion. With the Saints beating the Bucks, I think that gives the Saints a little bit of an edge as far as like who could be 10. The Browns, I mean, the Browns are 3-1. The Browns have kind of put up or shut up here. I think the Browns are bad, or not that they're bad. I don't think the Browns are very good. I don't think they're a true contender. So I'm kind of biased, I guess, in that aspect. If the Saints were playing the Browns, I would think the Saints were going to win. If the Saints were playing the Bucks, they already have won. So I think we have to move the Saints back in here. Because the Saints are doing one of those things where they're winning games when they're not supposed to. They had like 7 injuries the day before the game, or maybe even the day of the game. They were missing Marshawn Lattimore, Janoris Jenkins, Michael Thomas. They were missing everybody. And they still come out and play well. And that's a good thing. When you're not up to your highest level, whenever you don't have all your players, you don't have, like Green Bay. Like Green Bay is doing all this stuff without Devontae Adams. They're doing all this stuff right now without Devontae Adams, without Lazar. I mean, they're just putting the pieces together, but somehow they are dominating. So I take that into account, and to me, those things are impressive. So I'm going to give the Saints the nod here. Honorable mention goes to the Browns and the Bucks. Either one of them could have been in there. So this is the new top 10. I say new, not much has changed. You're looking at the Chiefs stayed the same, Seahawks stayed the same, Packers, Ravens, Bills. So everything changed to stay the same except for the Saints. And 6, 7, 8 really didn't play, in my opinion. Like 6, 7, 8 really didn't play because of the Cam Newton stuff, and then Pittsburgh and Tennessee literally didn't play. The Rams win, but an unconvincing win, so should they be bumped up? Nah. Saints gets a good win to get back into the top 10, but is it good enough of a win to get them moved to like 7? I don't know about that. I mean, Detroit is pretty bad, so this is the new top 10 we'll be rolling with into week 5. Going to chat here. Does Cam Newton have the virus? Yeah, Cam Newton tested positive for COVID, and that's why he had to sit out. So he was out, but I think he's only supposed to miss one game. So he should be playing the next game. But yeah, he does have the virus. New England, they separated like travel between all the people who could have come in contact with Cam Newton and then the people who didn't. So they're trying to quarantine. Tennessee has not had any more virus positives since they first got tested. Minnesota obviously doesn't have any. So it's all kind of seemingly under control here as far as the NFL goes. So hopefully that'll put a kibosh on it. Hopefully that'll be it. The Saints had a positive test before their game, and it was kind of concerning. But it turns out it was a false positive, so it was actually a negative test. So there was word that the Saints may have had a corona outbreak, but it looks like that is not the case. So that's good for there. So hopefully the season gets underway. I'm really kind of surprised at how the NFL seems to not have a contingency plan at all for the virus. You would think that they would have built in like 2 weeks at the end of the season to put these games, because the notion that we're not going to have hey, thank you very much, Moneyball, for the sub. Thank you very much, Moneyball. I appreciate that sub, man. Thank you very, very much. We're subscribed for 5 months. Amazing scenes. But the idea, this notion that the NFL is not going to have any canceled games the entire year, I think it's just crazy. So why would you not have bookended the season with like 1 or 2 weeks where you can put these extra games in and not worry about delaying the playoffs, not worry about delaying the Super Bowl, not worrying about how you're going to mix in the bye weeks and all that stuff. So I trust the NFL can get it handled, even though they've been absolutely terrible at handling literally everything else that's happened in the past decade. But we'll see how that goes. So there are your power rankings, ladies and gentlemen, for the week. Let's move on to the games, huh? Move on to the actual games. Again, insane slate. Wild games. There really were. Wild games all over the place. So many injuries. I mean, you're talking about like, we had the coronavirus situation, but then we also just had a ton of injuries. I mean, the Saints were super injured. You look at who was I just thinking about? Oh, the Niners are always injured. The Patriots were dealing with the coronavirus. The Packers had some injuries. I mean, a lot is happening. A lot is happening. So let's start with the Saints-Lions. I mean, look, the Lions aren't good. I'm not going to sit here and say that this win alone saves the Saints season. But what it does is it anchors the season to where the season isn't over. We said last week this game was going to be the most important game of the season, because if the Saints lose, the Saints are probably not even winning the division. Like they're probably not even a playoff team, right? So, those kind of things. That this game was so important. So important. So let's talk about the actual game. Lions go up 14-0. All right, at this point, I'm thinking, well, this ain't good. I'm thinking this is about as bad as it gets. This is awful. And just like that, the Saints come storming back, get the big win. Not just a win, but I mean, it was 28-14 at halftime. So they're up 14 at half after just getting dominated in the onset. Drew Brees was fantastic. He made some amazing throws. I think this officially should end the Drew Brees conversation. It's kind of crazy to think about that the Saints fans for the first couple of weeks, and even here, even we had the discussion that maybe Drew Brees is the issue. Maybe Drew Brees is the problem. And that's completely gone. I mean, he's playing right now at a very high level. I saw a stat on Twitter where Drew Brees had the same amount of like 20-yard plus passes as Josh Allen this week. We kind of saw this in the Packers game. And that's why I was saying that it was so good that the Packers game happened, because we got to see Drew Brees kind of get in a rhythm. And we got to see Drew Brees push the ball downfield. And when that happened, that was kind of all I needed to see to end the conversation of, hey, is this guy medically available to play the game? I mean, we had a lot happening where there was a real conversation if Drew Brees medically could play quarterback. If he was okay, if his arm was okay enough to play quarterback in the NFL. And I think that's officially gone. So with that being put, the kibosh, The next question is, or the next statement is, that the Saints are doing this without literally anyone. I mean, the injuries in this game, you're talking about they're down 2 or 3 defensive backs. They're down a couple wide receivers. They're down linebackers, defensive linemen. Multiple injuries going on the road, back against the wall, 14-0, claw back like this. The Saints season is back on track as far as I'm concerned. I'm not ready to move off of my statement that this is a division champion team. This is a team that I think can easily win the NFC South because, my God, what a terrible division. I think this is a team that for sure can win the NFC South, and that's about it. I don't think that they're a playoff team as far as like going deep into the playoffs or deep into the, really trying to vie for the NFC or to go to the Super Bowl. They're not on the same level as the Seahawks. They're not on the same level as the Packers even. They're not on the same level as the Chiefs or teams like that. So I think I'm being a realist when it comes to the Saints, and that's fine. It is what it is. But this was a great performance by the Saints. As far as the Lions, look, Matt Patricia should have a job. Bottom line. Some coaches are better coordinators. Some coaches just can't coach the entire game. It's obvious that Matt Patricia can't coach the entire game. When you blow leads, like Matt Patricia does, when you blow leads, that's because you can't adapt. You can't coach the game inside of the game. Detroit is cooked as long as Matt Patricia is there. They're a dead duck. They're dead in the water. They're a dead franchise. Whatever you want to say, however you want to say it, as long as Matt Patricia is there, it's over for them. So it feels bad for the Lions, but just like the Saints had to win to keep their season going, the Lions had to win to keep their season going. They didn't win. They lost in embarrassing fashion, and I think it's over for the Detroit Lions. So we'll see what they do after Patricia. I think he should be fired now. Just get him out of there, change the culture, and move on from there. Let's go to chat real quick. Why did the Redskins change their name to the Washington Football Team? They changed their name because of racial insensitivity? Yeah, racial insensitivity of the name Redskins. And, I'm usually pretty kind of down the middle on some of these issues where it's like, you don't want to make broad sweeping changes, but I think it's pretty clear that of all the racial names as far as like Braves and Chiefs and all that, I think Redskins is probably like the most easily identifiable as, I could see where that would be offensive. I could see where that would be a problem. So they changed that, and until they figure out what they want their next game to be or the next team name to be, I think the Presidents or something like that would be fine, but they are going to keep it as the Washington Football Team just to get through this season, and then we're going to figure it out from there. So that's why they changed it. This is the first season that Washington is going by this name. I don't see anything wrong with it. And I think it's kind of interesting when you hear people who are against it. It's like, what is there to be against? It's super obvious, right? Like, you can see where Redskins could be taken as offensive. So, get rid of it and figure it out. I mean, change is weird. Change is sticky. Not everyone likes change. And you hear people who are like, well, what about the Vikings? What about this? It's like, okay, well, again, there's a big difference between Indians and Redskins and Vikings, right? Like, I'm okay with the Cleveland Indians. I'm okay with the Atlanta Braves. I'm okay with the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm okay with the Florida State Seminoles, but I'm not totally down with the Redskins, So that's why they changed their name. Next question from chat. Do you watch the NBA Finals? Do you watch the NBA? I keep up with it. I haven't watched it too much in the bubble. I haven't watched really any of the finals. I am rooting for the Lakers. I hope they win. But, I do keep up with the NBA for sure. And usually during the season, I would be watching. With the bubble, I don't know. The bubble just kind of, it's one of those things where like baseball and basketball, I think, have kind of suffered from not being in their arenas and all that. I mean, you just take away. It almost seems like a scrimmage or something. Like, it seems like a preseason tournament where you take away the fans, you take away from the atmosphere, you take away from the home courts. Like at least the NFL, you're seeing these teams play in their stadiums. You're seeing the Saints play in the Dome. You're seeing the Packers play at Lambeau. If they were all playing in like a generic NFL training field, I think it would feel a little bit less like the NFL. And the NBA has certainly suffered from that. So, next game. Jaguars Bengals. Whew, boy, did we get this one wrong. So this was one of my biggest bets of the weekend. I took a absolute bloodbath this weekend. Really bad stuff. My flight to Mexico leaves tomorrow. But here's the problem. So the problem with the reason we took Jacksonville last week was because of information and statistics that seemed to tell us that Jacksonville had a underrated run defense. Those same statistics told us that Cincinnati could not run the football. Joe Mixon averaged 3 yards a carry. Their offensive line was getting worse. So my thought, and the rest of the universe's thought was, well, if they can't run the football and they get dominated at the line of scrimmage, that ain't good for anybody, right? Well, sometimes in life you get got, and we got because Joe Mixon ran for 151 yards and 2 touchdowns in easily his best game. And lo and behold, the Jaguars actually just suck. Lo and behold, the Jaguars actually just have a really bad defense. How about that? So this was never even close. Joe Burrow, again, incredible. Joe Burrow, 25 of 36, 300 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Look, I mean, what else is there to say about this kid? He's unreal. Like we said before, it's up to the organization now. It's up to the front office to get him help. Can they get him that help? A strong running game is obviously going to help that. Joe Mixon averaging 3 yards a carry and then averaging 6 yards in this game is just poo-poo on my face. Feels bad, man. But, hey, sometimes in life that happens. And trust me, it's happened more than I can ever imagine. Jacksonville, really, really bad. Really bad. Jacksonville's a tough spot. And I think the problem is they just have no clue who they are. Their defense is terrible. Their quarterback is just not the guy. So until they figure out literally anything, the Jags are going to be a laughingstock in the NFL. So that'll be my last time betting on the Jaguars this season. But Joe Burrow, I mean, what a stud. Gets his first win. The Bengals are relevant, man. That's the most important thing I can say about them. I've heard more people talk about the Bengals in 3 weeks than I've heard them talk about the Bengals my entire lifetime. And the Bengals have been good in my lifetime. The Carson Palmer days were pretty sweet. So even the Andy Dalton days could be kind of sweet. So this was impressive, and it's good to see Burrow get a win. Look, Cincinnati's not a playoff team. Cincinnati's not a true threat, but it is fun to watch Joe Burrow do some things. When you look at other games, when you look at other teams and other games, even like the Browns, like even Baker Mayfield, can you imagine what Joe Burrow would be doing on the Browns team? And I know it feels bad for Baker, be like, oh well, they're 3-1, they're 3-1. But I mean, Baker in this game threw for 165 yards, and we'll get back. We'll talk more about Baker Mayfield. And if you hear a loud noise, that's the building next door is having their grass cut, and that's right next to this window of the studio. So if you hear what seems to be a lawnmower, it is a lawnmower. So back to the Bengals Jags game. But you look at some of these other quarterbacks. When you watch them play, it's like, man, how far away are they from Joe Burrow? Like Washington with Dwayne Haskins, Daniel Jones with the Giants, even Jared Goff with the Rams. You got Mitchell Trubisky and Nick Foles with the Bears, Philip Rivers with the Colts, Derek Carr with the Raiders, Carson Wentz with the Eagles, Jimmy Garoppolo and Nick Mullens with the 49ers, every single person on the Patriots except for Cam Newton, Matt Ryan with the Falcons. You look at those players, and it's like they are different than Joe Burrow. When you watch Joe Burrow, even if he isn't winning, he's doing different things. So I love to see the development. What a player. Glad Cincinnati has a guy. And hopefully he just gets better and better. Let's go to the Browns-Cowboys game. What an interesting game, huh? So this game, super high scoring. 49-38, the Browns. Dak Prescott throws for 502 yards and 4 touchdowns. Let's look at the box score here. Really virtually nothing going on for Dallas besides Dak Prescott. The real talk, or the real crux of this issue, is Cleveland's rushing. Cleveland ran for 307 yards. They averaged 7.7 yards a rush over 40 carries. They had 3 touchdowns. This was like, Dallas is one of those teams. Dallas has always been one of those teams where statistically you could argue they're one of the best teams in the NFL. Statistically, you could argue Dak is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Ezekiel Elliott is one of the best running backs in the NFL. How is this team struggling? And usually it's been Jason Garrett. For the past couple of years, it's been their coaching. For the past couple of years, it's been Jason Garrett's terrible. Well, Mike McCarthy might be worse. I mean, the defensive coordinators he brought in, I think it's Mike Nolan. Is that who is it? Might be Mike Nolan. This is at home. And you're getting gassed for 307 yards on the ground. You lose to Baker Mayfield, and Baker Mayfield throws 19 of 30 for 165 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, granted, this is what Cleveland wants to do. Cleveland will win when they limit Baker. And the most important thing here isn't Baker's 165 yards. The most important thing is his no interceptions. Baker Mayfield is usually guaranteed for an interception a game. So if Cleveland can sit him down and have him throw for 5 yards an attempt, 165 yards, no picks, couple touchdowns, and then be able to run the football, yeah, Cleveland's going to be good. Yeah, Cleveland's going to be dangerous. It gets ugly whenever they force Baker to throw it 40-plus times, and he throws for 260, 2 touchdowns, 3 picks. That's whenever Cleveland gets really bad. I mean, do I think Dearness Johnson is going to average 7 yards a carry for the rest of the season? No. Do I think Odell Beckham is going to run for 73 yards a game? No. Do I think Kareem Hunt's going to average 6.5 yards a carry? No. So this is kind of one of those things where this is as good as it gets for Cleveland and as bad as it gets for this Dallas defense. Tell you what, man. Dallas, the big conversation this offseason was, should they pay Dak Prescott? Well, man, I'll tell you this. If I'm Dak Prescott, I'm kind of ready to get the hell out of Dallas. Like, at what point are you sitting here going, hey, I don't know if y'all noticed, but I'm kind of like the best player on the team, and I'm going nuts every single game, and y'all are ruining my career. I mean, again, I went through the teams with Joe Burrow, but let's look at Dak Prescott's game logs. So let's look at the stats here. So can I get a game log here? 2020, can't do that. Game log, here it is. All right. First game of the season. He goes 25 of 39, 266, 1 touchdown, no picks, runs for 30 yards. That's it. Next game, 34 of 47, 450 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks, runs for 18 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Next game, 37 of 57 for 472 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks, runs for another 26 yards. Next game, 41 of 58 for 502 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 pick, runs for 12 yards. He's got 3 straight games of more than 450 yards. All of those numbers, and Dallas is 1-3. And you look at these scores: 20-17, 40-39, 38-31, 49-38. Hey, I think there might be a problem with the defense. I think it might be time for Dak to hold Dallas accountable. If I'm Dak, I'll tell you this right now. If I'm Dak, after Dallas franchised me again, if another team, let's look at the NFL. If another team offers Dak Prescott some money, I think he needs to go. I think it's time for him to go. I think Dallas is that inept. I think Dallas is just that lost in the coaching and the organization. I mean, look at these other teams. I mean, even the Saints. Let's say Drew Brees retires, and the Saints say, look, we'll offer Dak a franchise deal. We'll offer Dak whatever, a full-on deal. Why wouldn't that be a win-win for both teams? Broncos, Jets, both would love to have Dak. Broncos could be a playoff team with Dak. Saints could be a Super Bowl contender with Dak. Jaguars could use Dak, but I don't think Dak would go there. Bengals already have their guy. Browns, same deal. I think Dak would go there, but I don't think the Browns would make that move. Dolphins, they already have Tua. Chargers, they're good. Bucks are fine if Brady plays another season. If they don't, that'd be a good place for Dak. Ravens obviously have their guy. Washington, Dak wouldn't go there, but they could use him. Cardinals have their guy. Panthers, they paid Bridgewater, but man, Dak is so much better than Bridgewater. Vikings, Dak is so much better than Kirk Cousins. Texans, only place worse than Dallas is the Texans. Giants, obviously Dak. Rams, Dak's better. Colts, Dak's better. Like, it goes on and on and on. You even get to like 49ers. The 49ers win the Super Bowl last year if Dak Prescott's playing quarterback. That's a fact. You can go ahead and write that down. The 49ers would be the Super Bowl champions if Dak Prescott was on that team. And maybe I'm a bit of a Dak believer here, but it's the same song and dance every single damn week where he goes crazy and the Cowboys just puke all over their shoes. Like, is their season over? their season's not over because the NFC East is so bad. I mean, they could still win the division, but they need, I don't know, I guess Jerry needs to be the one that comes down and drops the hammer, but it is time to get Mike McCarthy out of there. It is time to get all of his coordinators. Well, Kellen Moore, I guess, can stay. But you got to take a hard look at like the Lincoln Rileys of the world moving forward with Dallas. Dallas needs a progressive Sean McVay type character where they go get a progressive young mind who can kind of evolve this franchise into the next chapter. Because the Mike McCarthys, the Jason Garretts, those guys, it just ain't working. It ain't working. Going to chat. Why are the Jets so bad? Oh, man. Jeez. Organizationally, they're terrible. Coaching, terrible. The only thing they have going for them is Sam Darnold. And when you have a young quarterback like that, he is really kind of at the mercy of his coaches. So the Jets are that bad. Jamal Adams talked about when he left, when he went to Seattle. He said that the whole community there, the culture wasn't about winning, and so I think it's a deep down in the bones, in the blood kind of issue. But the Jets are awful. The Jets are right up there with one of the worst teams, one of the worst organizations we've seen in the last couple decades. Next game, Seahawks Dolphins. Seahawks take care of business on a tough road trip. It's a really impressive win for the Seahawks. Going to Miami, getting the job done. Wilson just continues to dominate. Probably the best player in the NFL right now. The Dolphins are just waiting, in my opinion. The Dolphins are waiting for Tua. And Fitzpatrick was named the starting quarterback again this week. He was named starting quarterback, so I guess Tua time will have to wait. And I don't blame them. Look, I've said this for a long time. If I was an NFL GM, God, could you imagine the world? If I was an NFL GM, 90% of the time, I'm sitting my guy for the first year. I'm sitting him. Unless my guy, like Justin Herbert, I would have had a plan to start Tyrod Taylor. Now Tyrod gets hurt. Herbert's got to play. Herbert is showing that he's okay. He's good to go. He's playing well. So then I would say, sure, we're going with Herbert the rest of the year. Same with Burrow. Burrow, there was no plan, but if Burrow would not have started and all of a sudden he comes in and shows he can do it, let him go. Like Tua. Let's say Tua comes in, shows he can do it, shows he's progressing, take the training wheels off. But I am all on board with not rushing these players in. You see it way too often with Matt Leinart and players like that where, look, these guys are used to being on the best team in college football. They are used to having the most time in the pocket. They are used to having the best wide receivers. And all of a sudden, within about 7 months, you're asking a 22-year-old kid to completely change where he lives, completely change who he's working with, completely change coaches, learn a completely new game plan. Oh, and by the way, everyone around you is the worst at their position because they had the first overall pick or a high enough of a pick to draft you. So I'm okay with bringing these guys along slowly. So Miami, we don't give Miami too much like in-depth analysis because what are you going to say? Miami, this team is just waiting for whenever they believe Tua can do it, and then we can actually give some kind of idea of how Tua is doing. Seahawks, this is their year. I'm telling you right now, the NFC is not that great. Russell Wilson hopefully will get the MVP award that he so greatly deserves. I think the Seahawks will represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. What a guy. I love Russell Wilson. I have waxed poetic about Russell Wilson a whole hell of a lot on this show. I've said it before, I'll say it again. This is controversial yet brave. If I could start a franchise with any quarterback in the history of the NFL, Russell Wilson is in my top 5. It's like Brady, Manning, Brees. Then you can argue Russell's probably right there. And then 5 is somewhere in you start argue like Montana. You can, we won't get into the full 5, but Russell is in that top 5 of who I would want to start a franchise with in the history of the NFL. I love him. I think he's so good, such a great leader, such a great player, and man, what a stud. So the Seahawks are rocking and rolling, man. That's why they are what we have them at 2. That's why we have them at 2 on our power rankings. Let's go to chat real quick, shall we? Why do you think the Patriots will still be in the Super Bowl picture now without Tom Brady? I think the Patriots, not only will they be in the Super Bowl picture, I think the Patriots are better without Tom Brady. I think Cam Newton is a better quarterback than Tom Brady this season in a vacuum. All time, obviously not. But this season, I think Tom Brady is worse than Cam Newton, and the Patriots are better. The Patriots are more explosive. The Patriots are more kind of adaptable. Like they just do so much more on offense now. They're not as boring. They're not as obvious as they were with Tom Brady. So I think the Patriots team is a very dangerous team. I think full strength, both teams full strength, I think the Patriots could beat the Chiefs. I would not predict them to beat the Chiefs, but it would be a game. Who do you think will make the Super Bowl this year? Right now, Chiefs versus Seahawks. And the game finishes 116 to 115. Next game, this was a wild game. Chargers, Bucks. Chargers 31-38 down in Tampa. The Bucks with a comeback win. Bucks outscored the Chargers 24-7 in the second half. Let me say this about Justin Herbert. Number one, call me, everybody knows I'm down here in the deep South. Everyone knows that, I am South Mississippi born and bred. So for the majority of Justin Herbert's college career, I thought his name was Justin Hebert. So when you down in the bayou like me and my friend Raymond, sometimes you read names like Herbert as in Hebert. So I didn't realize it was Justin Herbert until recently. But Justin Herbert has been fantastic. And I was wrong on Justin Herbert. I thought Justin Herbert was a real raw prospect. He kind of was like Josh Allen, but like 3 years underdeveloped. I didn't think he was great at Oregon. He showed some of the same traits, like a big arm. He showed the ability to run, but he just didn't seem like he was ready for the NFL. And I was wrong because he's been really good. He made a throw in this game. It's like a 65-yard throw, dropped it behind two defenders. One of the best throws I've seen all year. And, this is against a Tampa Bay team that has a great defensive line. He was getting hit a lot. He was getting rushed a lot, stood in the pocket, was strong. Really, 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 really good stuff from Justin Herbert. The rest of this Chargers team is okay. I don't think this Chargers team is bad. I think they're one of the worst coached teams in the NFL. Anthony Lynn is terrible. But this organization, same deal with Joe Burrow. Hey, guys, you got your guy. Hey, guys, you got the guy. You got your franchise quarterback. Now, what are you going to do? All right. It's one thing to draft the player. It's another thing to draft the player and then continually build upon that. Can the Chargers continue to build upon what they have? Can they do that and protect Justin Herbert and give him the pieces to continue to develop and succeed? First step is firing Anthony Lynn. I'll tell you that right now. Second step, figure out your running game. Figure all that stuff out. They ran 23 times for 46 yards for a 2.0 average in this game. Now again, Tampa Bay probably has the best rush defense in the NFL. Sure, but that's not good. Herbert is the reason they almost won this game. They probably should have won this game. Anthony Lynn is the reason they lost this game. If you go to right before the first half ended, they chose to run the football with like 14 seconds left instead of just taking a knee. They fumble. The Chargers get the ball, score just before the half. If that doesn't happen, this game is a very different game. So this is an Anthony Lynn situation. Let's go to the Bucks. This is an aberration for Tom Brady. Tom Brady is not going to give you 370 yards, 5 touchdowns every week. That ain't it. This is the first time he's thrown for 5 touchdowns in, I think, 4 years. This ain't it, all right? Bottom line, this is not Tom Brady. Tom Brady, in my opinion, is probably right around the 20th best quarterback in the NFL. Maybe 15, 20, somewhere in there. That is not good enough to win playoff games, Super Bowls, or whatever in the NFL nowadays. The Buccaneers are a talented team. The Buccaneers are a roster full of superstars. And maybe if their defense keeps playing at a high level, if their superstars like Mike Evans start doing things, then Tom Brady will not have to throw 5 touchdowns and 1 interception. Now, this is what Tom Brady can give you. I'll tell you that. This is what Tom Brady can give you, though. You stuck in a spot where you're down 24-14, you're down 24-7, you're in the playoffs, it's raining, backs against the wall. There's probably no one better in the NFL back against the wall, pressure-packed moment than Tom Brady. That's what you pay him for. You pay him for games like this. Backs against the wall, pressure-packed, got to lean on someone, lead on the greatest quarterback to ever live. But you can't ask him to do this every week. You can't say, hey, man, we're going to get in a shootout every single week. Hey, man, I need 5 touchdowns every week. He ain't that guy. He can give it to you 1, 2, 3 times a year, but not like this. I think Tampa is a threat in the NFC South. I think them and the Saints are going to come down to the wire. Saints obviously have a bit of an advantage since they're already up 1 game or already beat them. But, yeah, I mean, this is a dream start for the Bucs. It's only going to get better for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is right now where they don't even know who the hell they are. They got some injuries. They had a wide receiver was out. Leonard Fournette is not playing. So the Bucs have some issues. The fact that they're 3-1 right now, playing through those issues, really impressive. Chris Godwin, that's the receiver's name. I was staring at O.J. Howard, and I was like, Chris Howard? That doesn't sound right. Yeah, Chris Godwin. So Tampa Bay, I thought they would be a lot worse right now. I thought they'd be closer to 500 by the middle of the season and then go on a run. But if they're a couple games over 500, this team could low-key, high-key, low-key, high-key, low-key, high-key end up at a really high playoff spot if they just continue to win games like this. So I'm impressed. I'm not going to lie. I'm impressed. I'm not sold, but I'm impressed. Continue to move, shall we? Ravens, Washington. I honestly, guys, I kind of like Washington. I just like them. I just like Ron Rivera. I just like their organization. I just like what they're trying to do. I just like how they're finally making some good steps. They say, hey, look, we're removing the stupid-ass name. We're removing calling ourselves the Redskins. We're removing some of these coaches. We're removing all this. We're just going to go Ron Rivera. We're going to go, succinct organization. Now, the problem is the organization isn't on the field. These players are on the field. I think Dwayne Haskins is bad. I hate to say it because I think he goes out there and he plays hard. He doesn't turn the ball over a lot, which is a huge part of this. But I don't think he's got it. I don't think, and this is actually a pretty good game. I mean, he actually played okay. He wasn't awful. 32 of 45, 314, no touchdowns, no picks. Average about 7 yards of completion. QBR 31, which is not good. Quarterback rating of 90.4. I just don't see enough from Haskins to think that this team can keep pushing forward unless he pushes forward. So, I mean, this kind of stymies how good this team can be. I think this team is going to be like a 4-win team somewhere in there. They'll win some games they probably shouldn't. They'll be competitive, but I don't think they have a very high ceiling as long as Haskins is at the level he's at right now. As far as the Baltimore Ravens, great win right here. And we talked about this a little bit last week where Baltimore is one of those teams where they can get separation in games because they just want to run the football. They're not like the Rams or something where for the Rams to get separation, they need to be slinging it. They need Jared Goff to be going deep. This is a team that kind of is at their best when they're ahead. And I don't even know why I said kind of. This is a team that is obviously at their best when they are ahead. And they can run the football and just pound it and send pressure and rely on their defense. This Baltimore team is good. Now, the thing is, I don't know if they're that good without Lamar Jackson playing at an MVP level. In this game, he was 14 of 21, 193 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, ran 7 carries for 53 yards and a touchdown. Note, there was a 50-yard run in there, so 6 carries for 3 yards and 1 carry for 50 yards equals 7 for 53. So stats can be misleading sometimes. If Lamar Jackson is not in the MVP conversation, I think this team is really good, but it's only because of their defense. Besides that, they're a bit limited. They really are. So this is a team like the old school Ravens where their defense is going to carry them. If they want another chance at going to the Super Bowl, they're going to have Lamar Jackson play at an incredibly high level. Can he play at a high level, a level as high as or better than the Russell Wilsons of the world, the Patrick Mahomes of the world? I don't know. That seems tough. So he's going to have to up his game a little bit from where it is right now. But this is a great win for Baltimore. These are tough games. When you're going on the road against a disciplined team, not in your division, you can let games like this slip. They didn't let it slip at all. 31-17, good performance from the Ravens. They are sitting at 4 in my power rankings. Next game, bit of a surprise result for some, but this is a terrible spot for the Cardinals. The Panthers win 31-21 at home. We talked about this last week, how this is a rough spot where they had to travel across the country, play the early game. Now, here is the concerning part, ladies and gentlemen. Kyler Murray, 24 of 31. Oh, that sounds pretty good. Now, hold on to your butts. For 133 yards. What? 24 of 31, 133 yards. 3 touchdowns, good. 0 interceptions, good. 4.3 average. That is so bad. This has to change. This happened last year too. Kyler Murray has a big arm, but the Cardinals are afraid to let it loose. They're more about these screen passes, short passes, and if that stuff doesn't work, then they don't work. They've got to get to where they're more comfortable with throwing the ball downfield with Kyler Murray. This cannot be a thing. You will not win games in the NFL going 24 of 31 for 133 yards. I would love to see the stats for how many times a quarterback has gone 24 of 31 with 3 touchdowns and no picks and lost by 10. That seems impossible. And it doesn't seem like it can even happen. But it happens whenever you're completing passes where it takes you 3 completions to get a first down. So this is really, really bad. Carolina is just like the Bucs, where however good they're doing here is the worst it'll get. It's only going to get better. Matt Rule is only going to get better. David Tepper, the organization, is only going to get better. The players are only going to get better because Christian McCaffrey's out and Teddy Bridgewater isn't that good. So this is a team, I told y'all, in the next 5 years, do not be surprised if the Carolina Panthers are in the Super Bowl. This is a team ready to win. This is a team that's trying to win, and they're just missing a couple pieces. Obviously, with Christian McCaffrey going down, that could have been where it's over. That could have been where they pack it in, and they just don't really even finish the season. They just kind of skate to a bad record. But that's not what happened. That's not what happened at all. This team rallying behind each other. This team's finding ways to win. I mean, listen to these players. Mike Davis, Reggie Bonifant, Alex Armah. These are the guys running the football. Teddy Bridgewater, Robbie Anderson, Curtis Samuel, DJ Moore, Mike Davis. I mean, these guys are toting the rock for the Carolina Panthers, and they're beating good teams by a substantial amount. Again, terrible spot for the Cardinals here, going on the road early game, but you're never going to beat teams with Kyler Murray having 133 yards over the course of 24 completions. That's really bad. Also, Kenyon Drake, people are starting to really worry about him. 13 carries for 35 yards, 2.7 yards per carry. That is shit. That is really bad. That is not going to work either. So Arizona has to figure out their running game, and Cliff Kingsbury has to figure out a way to be more dynamic than whatever the hell this is with Kyler Murray. Next up, Vikings-Texans. Ooh, real surprising win here. So first of all, the Texans had, I think, 2 or 3 extra days because the Vikings were in quarantine, and Minnesota goes and slaps them up at home. This also led to GM/head coach Bill O'Brien getting canned. Now, I said Bill O'Brien should have been canned a long time ago. I think he honestly got fired more for his general manager skills than his coaching skills. Coaching-wise, he was kind of whatever. GM-wise, he was terrible. Traded away DeAndre Hopkins, traded away Jadeveon Clowney. The list goes on and on. But this guy, man, look, Houston's got a real issue. Real issue. Here's the issue. They have a good quarterback who they paid a lot of money. But the other part of their team, roster, organization is total shit on a stick. So what do? How can you possibly get the help to help Deshaun Watson win when you don't have any draft picks? They traded away all their draft picks. They got nothing. The Dolphins have all of their first-round picks. They are the worst team right now, record-wise, in the NFL. They have a top 5 pick, and it's going to Miami. That ain't good. So Houston is dead in the water with no life raft. They are open water. Sharks are circling them. They have no flares. They have no life raft, and they're bleeding. This is going to get worse for Houston. I'm telling you that right now. This is going to get worse. Now, let me also explain to y'all how coaching searches how they go in the NFL. When you fire a coach in the season, you cannot hire a coach who is working for someone else. So they can't go take a look at Josh McDaniels. They can't go take a look at Sean Payton. They can't go take a look at any of these guys. So they got to wait a year or a season at least before they can even entertain some of these other guys. So what are they going to do? Well, first of all, Romeo Crennel is the interim coach. But more than likely, they're going to sit with an interim coach and waste a year of Deshaun Watson. Like, think about that, right? Romeo Crennel. Let me see when Romeo Crennel was the Mississippi State head coach. Romeo Crennel, Mississippi State. Let's see. Let's see here. Oh wait, no, I was thinking about a different coach. I was thinking about Sylvester Croom. Sorry, I was thinking about Sylvester Croom. Sorry about that. That's on me. I was thinking about the Browns with Crennel. So Romeo Crennel was named. So he used to coach at New England. So let me get this all straight. So Sylvester Croom was the coach that I was thinking of that went to Mississippi State. What I was trying to figure out was the last time that Romeo Crennel was promoted after his great assistant coaching career with New England. Okay. Cleveland, 2005, he's named head coach. So this is the coach, and this is the whole point. I'm belaboring the point here because I'm trying to cover up a mistake. In 2005, Romeo Crennel is named a head coach. Think about how much the game has changed since 2005. Now, I know you're going to say, James, there's other coaches who have succeeded who have coached for a long time. Just because you're old doesn't mean you can't succeed. True, but those are the anomaly. All right, obviously. Here's another fact for you. The NFL turnover rate for coaches is 6 coaches per year. All right, so 6 coaches every year turnover. So that means every 5 years, pretty much, the entire league is full of new coaches. So obviously, the coaches who coach for a long time are the anomaly. The problem is, Romeo Crennel is not the guy who's going to get the best out of Deshaun Watson. Romeo Crennel may get the best out of the defense. He may play some organized football, but he's not going to get the best out of Will Fuller and Deshaun Watson. So you've got this dynamic change of the guard type quarterback. This kind of quarterback didn't even really exist in 2005. This was still one of those things where 2005, you wanted Peyton Manning. You wanted Carson Palmer. You wanted sit back in the pocket and do that. Now we're in a world in 2020 where Lamar Jackson is the MVP. Where Lamar Jackson, you can run an offense around a running back running the ball almost as much as he throws it. So Deshaun Watson is not the kind of guy that I think Romeo Crennel is used to having run his offense. I feel bad for Deshaun Watson because he's a guy who I think is really, really good. But he's pretty much locked into Houston, and Houston's locked into him. So I wish I could tell y'all, Texans fans that it's going to get better, but it ain't. It's going to get worse. And I don't know how you get draft picks back. I don't know what you do to improve your franchise, but it's real bad. Minnesota pick up their first win of the year. Good win, really good win here. Mike Zimmer, such a good coach. So we knew they weren't going to lose for long. This is what they got to do. They have to have Dalvin Cook run the ball 27 times for 130 yards, take the pressure off of Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins, 16 of 22 for 260, a touchdown, no picks. That's about as good as it's going to get for Kirk Cousins. So they need Dalvin Cook. They need all that. They need their running game. They need their defense while they fill these holes. They're replacing a lot of players. I think 5 players on the defensive side. Stephon Diggs. So a lot happening in Minnesota. Mike Zimmer really showing off here, going down to Houston, low prep time with a team that's struggling and somehow getting a win. So things are looking up for Minnesota. I would still expect this team to be somewhere between 4 and 6 wins. So not great, but hey, at least you're not Houston. Next up, where are we? Giants, Rams. Lord have mercy. This was going to be quick. Daniel Jones is terrible. Daniel Jones is not an NFL quarterback. As long as the New York Giants have Daniel Jones, they are not going to be viable in the NFL. I heard someone say earlier, or it was like a talk radio thing, where they were like, hey, if the Giants can, should they move off of Daniel Jones for Trevor Lawrence? LMAO. If the Giants can, they should move off of Daniel Jones for almost anyone in the NFL. He is that bad. He will not win in the NFL. He's not there. I'm telling y'all, I've seen enough. Not there. But the rest of the team, look, Wayne Gallman's carrying the football. Devontae Freeman's carrying 11 times. Daniel Jones carried the ball 6 times, okay? And he was their second leading rusher. He was tied for their leading rusher of the game at 45 yards. But he carried it 6 times. Devontae Freeman carried it 11. Wayne Gallman also carried it for 6. Leading receiver, glad you asked. Yards-wise, Darius Slayton. Receptions, Evan Ingram. Who are these people? Wayne Gallman, Devontae Freeman, Deion Lewis, C.J. Board, Darius Slayton, Damian Ratley, Caden Smith. Who are these human beings? This team has no talent anywhere. They have a head coach who is trying to figure out the NFL. New coach, terrible roster, injuries to Saquon Barkley, injuries to Sterling Shepard. Nothing I can say from New York. All I can say is if you're a Giants fan, you are rooting to lose to draft Trevor Lawrence. Rams, hey, 3-1. Hey, McVay's figuring it out. Jared Goff, I've said it. I mean, this is pretty pathetic, actually. 25 of 32, 200 yards, touchdown, no interceptions, pretty whatever. But hey, you really didn't need to, I guess. Kind of a sloppy game, but the Rams are getting it done. They're 3-1, 2-0 at home. This is a tough spot where it's not a tough spot, but you're playing a game in the Giants where you don't care about this game at all. You can drop your guard, which they obviously did. They only scored 17 points against the Giants, but they got the job done. Defense held the Giants at the end, got the win. These sloppy wins like this, these are paramount to playoff games and playoff runs and stuff like that. So Sean McVay is doing a hell of a job coaching this team because these players are not good. Malcolm Brown, Darrell Henderson Jr., these guys are average at best. He lost a lot. He has lost a lot over the course of a couple of years, and Jared Goff has stagnated, if hasn't got worse. So McVay is one of those guys where if Sean McVay was in Dallas may be 16-0. So the Rams are good. The Rams' ceiling, very low. I mean, the Rams could make the playoffs, but that's about it. Next game, Colts Bears. Hey, what happened to the Bears, huh? What happened to Nick Foles, huh? 26 of 42, 249 yards, 5.9 average, touchdown pick. There was chance for Trubisky. This game was awful. I mean, Phillip Rivers, 16 of 29, 190 yards, touchdown, no picks. Really bad game here. These are two below average 3-1 teams. We told y'all how unnormal it was for the Bears to be 3-0 and a home underdog, and looks like that was correct. So, look, Foles is better than Trubisky, but Foles is still Foles. I mean, people thinking that Foles is going to come out here and do the same thing. It's like Foles is getting some weird. I think people still look at him and say, hey, he's got what he did in Philadelphia in him. It's like, well, if that was the case, he'd still be in Philadelphia, So, obviously, he doesn't. As far as Indianapolis, I think Phillip Rivers is just, he ain't got it anymore. Same deal, man. If Indianapolis had like Dak Prescott, this team would be really good. This team is good. The coaching in Indianapolis is good. Indianapolis will be good despite of Phillip Rivers, but Phillip Rivers will limit their ceiling massively. So that's not good for them. As far as the Bears, we'll see moving forward what Nagy can do with a non-Trubisky quarterback for more than a game. So I'm interested to see how the Bears develop. If the Bears start falling off, let's say the Bears lose 3 straight. Do you just go back to Trubisky? I mean, why stick with Foles? Don't you think you have a better chance of maybe developing Trubisky versus letting Foles just suck? I mean, how different is Foles than Ryan Fitzpatrick as far as the outlook of the season? If they start sliding, obviously if they start winning or just kind of even breaking even, then it's a totally different story. But if there's a slide there, do you go back to Trubisky? I don't know. Next up, Bills Raiders. What a game here. So Josh Allen, look, I'm telling y'all right now, Josh Allen has made as big of a jump as I've seen from a year to a year as any quarterback maybe ever. I mean, what a player. This guy can do it all. He even got hurt in this game. Went out for a series, came back in, and finished the game, won the game. Couple of tough weeks. Almost blew it against the Rams. Come from behind to beat them. This game right here, same deal where they had to kind of do some things at the end. Game got closer than it should have been. This team is going to go as far as Josh Allen goes. If Josh Allen plays at the level he's playing at right now, this team can win the Super Bowl. They need Josh Allen to be somewhere in the top 8 quarterbacks in the NFL, and they are a true, legit Super Bowl threat. Now, I need to see him in the playoffs because last year he was good, but man, was he bad in the playoffs. He looked like a chicken with his head cut off in the playoffs. So we need to see him in that setting again to see if he can bounce back, to see if he can chill. But right now, he's playing as good, if not better, than any quarterback in the NFL. Raiders, we've talked about the Raiders before. Carr actually played really good this game. 32 of 44, 311 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. I've been kind of down on Derek Carr, but maybe I need to give him a break because he's been playing pretty well. I think Gruden is an issue. I think he's an unimaginative coach who is just going to kind of sort of stick to what he knows. And in a game that evolves as fast as the NFL does nowadays, maybe that's not the move. As far as the Raiders injury report, we reported that they had like 3 wide receivers hurt last week, which is why we took the Bills. With that being said, they still played pretty admirably. Down 3 receivers and still put up a good performance like this, 30-23. I mean, losing by 7 at home isn't great, but you're playing against probably the best roster in the NFL, so not a terrible result from the Raiders. A great result from the Bills. Going on the road, statement game here. Josh Allen, man, he's an exciting player. The Bills are not an exciting team, like not a household name, but they probably should be. They're up there. They're a really fun team to watch. This wide receiver core for being Stephon Diggs, John Brown, Cole Beasley, they made some unbelievable catches this game. This is a fearless wide receiver group with a fearless quarterback. And, I mean, look, I stand the Buffalo Bills. Keep moving. Hey, let's go to prime time, huh? Prime time. Eagles-Niners. This game right here, man. Eagles back against the wall. We kind of predicted this. We took the Eagles last week on our 5 picks. Eagles had their back against the wall. And arguably, their roster is not that different than the Niners in this game. The Niners are so hurt across the board, and they had to go with Mullens and C.J. Beathard. I tell you what, if they would have played another quarter of this game, I think C.J. Beathard leads them. C.J. Beathard was really, really good. Nick Mullens, 18-26, 200 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and a fumble. So 3 turnovers, and one of his interceptions was one of the worst interceptions I've ever seen in my entire life. TJ Beathard comes in, 14-19 for 138 yards. He looked really sharp, actually. If they were to play tomorrow, I think Beathard would get the start. But I think Garoppolo is supposed to be back. Philly, this was kind of the Carson Wentz show. He was all over the place. He wasn't great. He was just kind of playing that like schoolyard Brett Favre style where it wasn't pretty, but man, he got the job done. Philly needed this win just as a franchise. They're in first place in the NFC East. They're relatively dangerous because Philly can get hot, but I don't know if they can get hot with this wide receiver core. Travis Fulgham, Greg Ward, Richard Rodgers. Yuck. Miles Sanders was pedestrian at best. Jalen Hurts came in, didn't really do anything at all. They're still trying to figure him out. I think he needs to be more of a Taysom Hill style player, but I don't think he has the ability of Taysom Hill. So Jalen Hurts is still yet to make an impact there, so it's kind of a wasted pick by the Eagles. The Eagles, they're going to right the ship. I don't think the Eagles are as bad as people make them out to be. I think they're probably a 500 team, something like that. And the NFC East, man, 500 gets you to heaven. So as far as the Niners go, look, we figured this would happen. They are obliterated from injuries. It's tough to see because it's such a good team, but they just have nothing else. And Mullens, I'll say it again. Nick Mullens, from what I've heard, he's pretty much untouchable in Frisco. They like him a lot there. And this game was really bad for Nick Mullens. I mean, honestly, if he doesn't get another shot to impress, this game could cost him like $40-50 million. That's how bad he was. If I was a GM and I watched this performance, I would have said, there is no way in hell I'm giving this guy $40 million when he's worse than CJ Beathard. So Mullens needs another chance to shine. I hope he gets it. Good lad. But this was an abysmal performance. He looked like he was shrinking in the moment. He looked like a little kid out there. He looked like he had no business being on the field. His eyes were bulging the entire night, throwing into triple coverage, double coverage, wide open linebackers. He made one of the best throws of the weekend to a Philadelphia Eagles linebacker for a second interception that went for a pick six. So this kid's, I mean, look, Frisco's a Super Bowl team that's losing, that doesn't have half of their Super Bowl roster. So you can't expect them to be good. Now, this is a game they probably should have won, but you get a player like Mullens who, I mean, we said last week, is he that much worse than Garoppolo? This was a game where this was the worst version of Jimmy Garoppolo. I'll tell you that much. If Nick Mullens is the same as Garoppolo, this is the low end. And that's a good thing when you have Carson Wentz. You know, when you have Carson Wentz or players like that, no matter what your roster looks like, no matter what your team looks like, no matter what the situation is, if they are healthy, they're going to keep you in games and give you a chance to win games. So happy to see that for Carson Wentz. I enjoy watching him play. He's a fun player to watch. But, yeah, I mean, I don't think Frisco, they're not going to win the division. They're nowhere near Seattle. Do they make a wild card? Probably not. Are they better than the Rams right now? Probably not. So Frisco's probably not even a playoff team. The Eagles, you never know in the NFC East, could win the division. Could be hosting a playoff game. Let's go to Monday Night Football. Monday night. Go to the first one. Patriots, Chiefs. Again, very impressed with New England. I mean, the box score didn't really show it, but the fact that they had to come out here with Brian Hoyer and Jared Stidham and try and figure it out. Stidham throws a pick six at the end there. This game was closer than it should have been. I think Belichick, the defense, matches up well in this spot with the Chiefs. All things considered, again, strength is my strength. Cam Newton starting, Patriots doing what they want to do, Chiefs doing what they want to do. This is a competitive game. So I think this was pretty impressive from the Patriots. This is as close as you can get to a positive loss. And as far as the Chiefs, lackluster performance and win by 16. Anytime you can say those two things, it's really good for you. The Chiefs are still the crown prince of the NFL. It's their Super Bowl to lose. If it was me, I would already be about halfway through etching Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl champions on the Lombardi Trophy. Last game, Falcons-Packers. Packers 30, Falcons 16. Man, the Falcons suck. The Falcons are really bad. And it starts with Matt Ryan. Look, Matt Ryan was really bad this game. I watched this entire game, and I should be canonized or beatified or something like that. I should be put up for sainthood. It's canonized, right? I don't know. I've been talking for an hour and a half. Who knows? I should be put up for sainthood for watching this game. Matt Ryan was terrible. Overthrowing receivers, throwing into tight coverages, throwing into defensive players. He had one of his longest completions because it bounced off of two defenders into his receiver's arm. Julio Jones played the first half, didn't come out for the second half. That was interesting. This team's just not good. This team's not good, and Dan Quinn's not good. I mean, look, if you want to have like a really obvious kind of comparison, go take a look at how Kyle Shanahan handled the 2-minute and beyond of their game, where he positioned the 49ers to win the game because of his clock management and play calling. And then go look at how Dan Quinn called this game. Dan Quinn should be fired. Dan Quinn and Adam Gase are the two guys who it's like, Matt Patricia, who it's like, how are y'all still coaching? Obviously, this is going past you. I've said this for weeks with the Falcons. They had a really good core of Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, and they could win games. They could score. They could win. Matt Ryan's, I think, is the most winningest quarterback to never win a Super Bowl. It's like over 100 victories. Okay, the guy has a great career. That's all over. Matt Ryan is terrible. Matt Ryan is probably bottom half of the NFL as far as quarterbacks go. Julio Jones isn't even on the field. All right, so is Todd Gurley going to win you games? No, he's averaging 3.5 yards a carry. This ain't it. Falcons also simultaneously probably have the worst defense in the NFL. So you've got no offense, no defense, and you have one of the worst coaches in the NFL. This team's bad. This team's really, really, really bad. There's nothing they can do this season. I think they got to fire Quinn. I think you fire Dan Quinn, get the culture back, see off Matt Ryan, see off Julio, and then try and start rebuilding. This is another team where it's like, hey, look, if you're a Falcons fan, you're rooting every week to lose. You're rooting every week to lose to try and get Trevor Lawrence because this window is over. Packers side, much different. This team should be all in. I said it last week, but this Packers team needs to offer Jordan Love and who the hell ever else for players like Julio Jones. This team could win the Super Bowl. This Packers team can compete. This Packers team certainly could win the NFC. So if you can do that without Devontae Adams, without your best players, go get someone else. Robert Tonyan and Jamal Williams were the leading receivers of this game. One is a tight end, one is a running back. Okay? They're missing their top 2 wide receivers. Aaron Jones is an absolute stud. He is probably the most underrated back in the league. Aaron Rodgers is playing at a super high elite level. No doubt about that. But they need a couple extra pieces. I don't think this team can win the Super Bowl, but this team plus a piece at full strength can win the Super Bowl. This team plus Devontae Adams, plus Lazar, plus a Julio Jones type could for sure win the Super Bowl. What a job from Aaron Rodgers. What a job from Matt LaFleur. Green Bay, for an organization that has given Aaron Rodgers next to nothing to work with, the fact that they positioned this team into being this good, very impressive. So, I mean, I kind of hope they go get something. I kind of hope, I mean, like, think about it. If you're Atlanta, that's exactly the trade you need to make. Julio for Jordan Love. And then you start trying to just kind of get him some reps behind Matt Ryan and usher in the next guard next year. That's what you need to be doing. And Green Bay needs to be saying, we're all in. You want your Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers is not Drew Brees. Aaron Rodgers is not Tom Brady. He looks right now as good as he's ever looked. So you may still have a 2-3 year window of winning the Super Bowl. Go get him help. Go get him players. What are you doing? Go get someone. So hopefully Green Bay moves some pieces around for Aaron Rodgers. But yeah, really, 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 really impressive how Green Bay has so nonchalantly just started 4-0. Good stuff from Green Bay. And that is the recap. Yeah, that is the recap. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening to the football show. I appreciate that. Solid stuff, power rankings, all of that.